Hey, all you cats and kittens, welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture. This is Dad speaking, and the only part of my den you can see at the moment is my desk. And on top of my desk is what I'm going to be reviewing today. This is Private American by Mike Barron, a book that has gotten a little bit of controversy attached to it. And I think mostly wrongly so, although obviously when you get into issues of the day, you can obviously people are going to come in from both sides and have their own opinions and may not like things. Yeah, there you go. So, written and created by Mike Barron, illustrated by Richard Bonk, colors by uh, is it Marcio Frere in Pencil Blue Studio, letters by Warren Montgomery. There are variant covers. I have a variant cover. This is a Steve Rude cover. We have additional colors by Gabe Eltaeb and Iksan Ansori, edited and published by Chris Braley. All right, so what is this? What is this book that has caused some consternation among some people? It is a story. We'll flip over to the back cover here. It is the story of Marcos Zamora, second generation Cuban American, a veteran, Green Beret, who decides he's going to do something about the chaos on the United States southern border. What is that chaos? Well, if you're somebody who is going to be inclined to dislike this book, you're going to assume, oh, he's going and he's attacking illegal immigrants. This is some right wing fantasy about attacking illegal immigrants, and it is not. Although it could be a right wing fantasy, I suppose. But it's not about attacking illegal immigrants. It is about going after the people that are exploiting them. It's about going after the drug gangs that are bringing fentanyl and other things into the country. And it's about terrorists coming across the border as well. Now, this book is not set exactly in the real world, although it's clearly inspired by what's going on in the news today. And obviously, people are going to come at it from different angles based upon their political leanings. Um, obviously, politics in comics is not exactly new. In 1970, you had the Green Lantern co-starring Green Arrow, and those books, 14 issues of which were very political, primarily from a more left-leaning slant. You had a storyline in Captain America where he was going after the secret empire, and this was inspired, according to Steve Englehart, by Watergate. And in fact, the bad guy of the story was ultimately Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon went after a sitting president who, let's be honest, Nixon, not a great man, but a little stunning to do that in a comic book. So, generally speaking, some politics in a comic isn't a bad thing. It still needs to be a comic book. It still needs to be an adventure story. Um, but to have a political tinge, it's going to happen. You're dealing with the events of the day. It's going to happen. Hopefully, you come at it from, you know, the proper angle. So you're not just writing propaganda, but you're exploring issues. And this book does do that. It does get into issues. And some issues that people might not want to hear about. Now, ultimately, the story is about this man, this Green Beret, who initially with one friend who, yeah, and then later another, is going down to the border, and he's looking for specifically for the bad guys, not just people who are crossing the border illegally. His first action is against some men who are about to sexually assault a person they've helped cross the border. Um, those men do not come out of it in good shape. And the private American sends the people someplace where they'll be safe. So, no, he doesn't make a citizen's arrest of the illegal immigrants. He doesn't want to see them being abused any more than he wants to see anybody else being abused. Um, his initial actions get the attention of the drug gangs. Show off a little bit of art in the book. So the drug gangs are not real pleased with what's happening, and they want to deal with it. And so they bring in a professional who can do exactly that. And that gives our hero some problems. And his actions, because he is seizing the fentanyl that he's taking off of people and depositing it with the Texas Rangers. And so there's some attitude of the folks who are actually having to deal with the problems on the border are more or less on his side. But this brings in the federal government, who's not happy about this. They don't like this attention. And so they want to stop him. Now, you don't necessarily see them as being in league with the drug dealers. They have their own agenda. And I think that's what, the book is, you got the action. It's reminiscent of The Punisher, as it is intended to be. But you are dealing with some bigger issues. You're dealing with exploitation of people by very powerful folks who have their own agendas, and they don't really care what the law is or what the law should be. And that's covered here. There are various forces that are aligned against this man, and some people on his side. But those forces against him, they're coming from different angles. It's not necessarily that simple. And you don't know. Maybe they're gonna join forces in a way. There is sort of a shadowy bad guy in the background who maybe will bring these forces together against him, and then he has his own allies. So it's an interesting book. It's well written, good art. It's extremely violent. It's bloody. And it's very scathing in its criticisms of what's happening on the southern border of the United States, with no bones about it. And that's clearly going to upset some people. If you don't like that idea, I would suggest you don't buy the book. And if you are open to the story, I'd say give it a shot. I think you'll like it. But I do want to stress that there are folks who are going to try to make you think that this is a book about a man attacking innocent illegal immigrants. And it is absolutely not that. He does not do that in this book. He does not voice any desire to do that in this book. He shows some sympathy with the folks who are trying to come up here illegally. Although he still thinks that they shouldn't be doing it. His primary focus is on the folks, the wealthy, the elite, who are sort of in the background manipulating events and manipulating people for their own benefit. And I think once upon a time, the vast majority of Americans could be on board with something like that. It's not terribly different from what you saw in some of the earliest Superman stories, where he's going up against slumlords, where he's going up against a couple of totalitarian nations the generalissimos of which are sending their men out to a pointless war to kill one another, and Superman swoops in. He captures both of those men and he forces them to fight with one another mano a mano, which they don't want to do. They show their cowardice, and the people abandon them. It's really coming more from that standpoint. There's some bad stuff going on. There are some people out there benefiting from it, and just the way the Punisher was going after the drug gangs, the mob, the mafia, whatever, pushing things in New York. This is a guy who's doing the same thing, in Texas, essentially. Primarily, he's going up against the drug gangs, the cartels. But the federal government is there more, at this point at least, as a stumbling block. Because, again, they have their own narrative they're trying to weave, and they don't want somebody like that getting in the way. They especially don't want attention to the chaos that's going on down there. And that's where some moneyed interests come in. It's about a lot of biased, self-interested people who don't really care who's getting hurt. And this one guy who's stepping up to try to stop it. Why? Well, he keeps saying, because somebody had to do something. I just couldn't sit there and watch this happening and do nothing. And you get the feeling that as this story goes on, because this is just, volume 1, that you're going to find out more about Zamora's past and maybe other things that are driving him. So on the whole, I like Private American. I will definitely buy a follow-up. It's good work, but listen, it's not for everybody. I wouldn't suggest it obviously for kids. It's bloody. It's not for kids. And if you have a very, we'll just say, left-wing political bias, I don't think you're going to like this book. In fact, I think you'll probably hate this book. If you're more moderate or right-leaning, I think you probably would dig it, assuming you were like a Punisher fan, or you're a fan of adult, more adult comics, more mature comics that have some tough things to say about the world and aren't afraid to show off a little bit of blood and guts in the process. So there you go. That's the review for today. Private American by Mike Barron. The initial campaign for this is over. I'm not sure if there are still copies that you can go out and get. You might want to go out and check. And hopefully there's going to be a part 2. Right now, they're working on a comic book called Bronze Star, which looks pretty awesome. I went ahead and backed that today. So, keep your eyes open. If you haven't gotten this, and maybe you can go out and find it. It's a good book. It's a tough book. It's coming from the same place that movies in the '70s like Death Wish came from. There's a lot of trouble out there, and a lot of people are getting frustrated, and this is definitely an expression of that. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you got some things you want to say, throw them in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say, whether it's complimentary or not, because I know books like this and subjects like this raise people's hackles and can get people upset, and hopefully we can talk about it in a respectful way. So leave comments if you have some. I welcome them, whatever they might happen to be. In the meantime, I'm going to sign off for Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Hope you have a great day. Be kind to one another, folks, because it is a tough world out there, and sometimes it seems like it's getting tougher every day. And I will see you next time around. Adios.